Welcome to the Pat White Show. Let's get into it.
This is Sparta!
Recently, I've had a number of people ask me about what is that vest that you're wearing? Well, that I'm a member of the Izaak Walton League of America, the Fort Wayne chapter. Now, Izaak Walton is a national conservation organization. Got to start back in 1922, mostly in the Midwest. And they've changed and actually got a lot of laws set up involving conservation. But a good organization. Chapters all over the Midwest. Here in Indiana, there's multiple chapters. Just so happens that Fort Wayne is the largest chapter in the state of Indiana. And it's something we're proud of. And we've had more and more people want to join Izaak Walton because of all the things that we offer. Now, I got this brochure here. And this shows what we do. And you can see if you look at it, and we have tons of stuff that we have available. Fishing ponds, miles of places that you can walk out in the forest, trails, if you will. We've got trap and skeet shooting. We've got bow hunting. We have bow instructors. Yes, we do have that. Even digital archery stuff. We've got rifle and pistol range. We've got one of the finest rifle and pistol ranges here in northeastern Indiana. We can shoot anywhere from 7 yards to 100 yards. And we have all kinds of people come out and shoot because we have what is considered one of the safest ranges in the state. Now, you may be saying, well, how can that be? Well, we have about 40 plus NRA certified range safety officers, RSOs. And we're all members of Izaak Walton. You see, I'm an RSO. And I have been an RSO for a number of years because here's my RSO patches. And Izaak Walton is one of those kind of organizations, great for the entire family. Now, you're interested? Get one of these brochures, tells you all the rates and everything. But you go on to our website, which is www.iwla-fw.org. It's not a .com, it's a .org. And IWLA, Izaak Walton League of America -FW is Fort Wayne. So IWLA-FW.org. You can check it all out, see all the information, see what it costs. It's very inexpensive, and you get to do a whole lot of stuff. And it's our rifle and pistol range where I work. Hey, we're open 5 days a week, and it's great. We even have competitions. Now, people look over my shoulder here, well, over this shoulder. There's a target you see on the wall. That's what someone was asking about. What is that target? I said, well, it's an IBS target, and I have one right here. Here's another one. We had a competition. Now, we just had our a spring championship competition and shooting at these targets. Because at 50 yards, which is what we do, you get one shot at each of these circles. And the circles, if you hit in the middle, it's worth 10 points. You don't hit in the middle, it ain't worth 10 points. Total score you can get on one of these targets is 250 points. If you get that, you've shot a perfect score. And the reason I have that up on the wall back behind me, because I've done it one time. I've done it. It's another target called ARA, and that's 2,500 points. And yeah, I got lucky and did that once myself. Yeah. That's the reason that I am a member of the Izaak Walton League, because I enjoy it. It's fun. It's great for the whole family. And it's doggone inexpensive. And as a big fan of the Second Amendment, which I am, and I am a shooter, I'm a precision long-distance shooter. For people who want to know, I do like to shoot stuff at long distances, very tiny things. We've even got KOIL targets in our range. So if you're interested in joining a club that actually is great for the entire family, they're going to have a good time, and you'll learn marksmanship safely. You know? Think about Izaak Walton League of America. We're there. Stop out and see us anytime. We'll be happy to show you around. Now you know why I wear the vest and what it means. That's all I got for you. Have a great day. We'll see you. Bye now. Coming up next.
Well, I have something kind of new for you, and frankly, to most people, they're going to go, "Oh yeah, big whoop. Who cares? Who knows? It's not big." Well, to many of us, it is big. As I was saying, I heard this once on a TV show. Someone said, "There's an app for everything." You know, like on your phone. You know, you just say, "Okay, well, gee whiz, I got an app for everything. There's whatever you want to do. There's an app for it." Well, Fort Wayne, guess what? There's an app coming that maybe you might want to have on your phone. It's called Parkmobile.
And I'm going, okay, fine. Parkmobile. If you work downtown, if you go downtown, if you use downtown, you go into the parking space, or else you go into the parking garages, you go down to see a concert, ball game. Now, okay, a lot of people do that. And, going downtown trying to find a place to park is, frankly, a pain in the butt. It is. Well, this parking app, Parkmobile, is coming to Fort Wayne. Now, they already have this in Indianapolis, so you get it on your phone, you go down to Indy, you can use it down there. Apparently, you can be able to use it a lot of different places. What it does is, instead of you feeding the meter, beep, 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 pick up your phone. Okay, in my parking space is this place, put another dime in it, put another quarter into it, whatever. You will be paying for your parking on your phone. You just type in the stuff. Here's the meter number. Here's all the stuff. That's my meter, and I'm paying for the meter. Now, let's say you're in a 2-hour parking spot. You can't go longer than 2 hours. We'll let you do that. Hey, you get 2 hours. After that, meter maid is going to come give you a ticket. But now you'll be able to park downtown, park on the street, and feed the meters via your phone. Think about that. That's coming. Now, eventually, you'll be able to use it at the parking garages downtown. And from what I understand, and I could be wrong here, but according to the article I read, said that say you want to park in a particular parking garage, you can book your space in advance. I want my parking space over there. And let's say you drive into the garage and it says, sorry, all full. And you go, no, here's my phone. Beep, boop. Oh, come in, sir. Your parking space is ready for you. That's what's coming, folks. There's an app for everything. So apparently now we're getting a parking app called Parkmobile. And you'll be able to pay the money through your phone directly to the city of Fort Wayne to fill their coffers thanks to your iPhone. Ain't America grand? And as I said, there's an app for everything. Now you know. Go forth and spend money. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, let me fill you in on a little something that's going on in downtown Fort Wayne. Now, you've been downtown, you know where the Grand Wayne Center is. And to the west of Grand Wayne Center are some restaurants. Now, they're not, sit-down restaurants like we're used to. These are fast food restaurants. And they have been causing a big, giant pain downtown for people that, got other plans. Restaurants include the Taco Bell, a Euros, and a Rally's. Now, that's about an acre of land down there just west of the Grand Wayne, and the Downtown Improvement District wants that land in the worst possible way. So, what did they do? Well, turns out the leases for the Euros and the Rallies ended up in August, and they were able to cover and get rid of those leases, so they didn't get released again, but they had a problem with the Taco Bell. Taco Bell's lease ran for 20 more years. Now, Don Steimer is the head of the Downtown Development Commission. Good guy, does good work. I like Don. He said, "Hey, we got to do something. We got to get rid of those restaurants." So he went to the folks at Taco Bell, the owners. He said, "Tell you what I'm going to do. How about we move your restaurant across the street?" Yes. They're going to move right across the street on Jefferson over to the south side on the corner. Going to have a corner spot right over there by Parkview Field. I mean, talk about a primo location. I mean, folks coming down there want to go to the ballpark, stop by, get yourself a burrito, whatever you eat, or you go to the game if you don't want to buy the game's food, but they got good food inside the ballpark. But they're going to have tacos down there. And for late night, people getting out, want to get something to eat. Hey, you got to go to Taco Bell at night, right? Late night, got to have Taco Bell. Going to be on the other corner. So, Redevelopment Commission has acquired all those properties now, that roughly a 1 acre down there. And what are they going to do with that? Now, you say, well, where'd they get all the money? Well, you know that food and beverage tax that you and I have to pay for? It's what, 0.5%, whatever it is? Well, that garners the city of Fort Wayne about $8 million a year. Yes, at 0.5 cent. $8 million a year. They've been accumulating dough. And they've got to decide what they're going to do with that. That property down there, I think, cost them somewhere around $6-7 million to get that stuff. But they got it. City of Fort Wayne, Redevelopment Commission, they own the property. What are they going to do with that property? Well, there was talk a few years ago about building an arena. Yeah, you heard me right. An arena downtown, a basketball arena. Well, that was going to be for the Mad Ants. But we know what happened to the Mad Ants. Yeah. Gone. So, what are they going to do then? My guess, and this is strictly my guess, so you don't have to take this to the bank. My guess is they're going to give it to the Grand Wayne Center and allow them to expand the Grand Wayne Center and make it even bigger. Why? The bigger downtown events you have, the more things you can have. Let's be honest. You want to bring people to come into Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne's becoming a place to come to now because more things are happening. You know, that new DORA agreement where you can walk around downtown with a beer in your hand and not get arrested, that's just one little small thing they have going on. You got the baseball field downtown. You got the electric works over there on Broadway. You got the river, all the Riverwalk stuff, the things happen to the river, the Headwaters Park. You know, we're a place where people want to come to and conventions want to come to. And if they make the Grand Wayne Center even bigger, more conventions can come in and more stuff can happen. Will that happen? I don't know. But I do know that people like Don Steininger know what to do and what things are going on. And I don't think it's going to be a arena. I think those days have gone by. That's my opinion. Could be wrong. But could it be a bigger convention center and more conventions coming into downtown? That's where people spend money. We got things to watch them, and they can now walk around with a beer in their hand downtown. Hey, Fort Wayne's becoming a place to go. And guess what? We're all part of it. Now you know what's happening with the city of Fort Wayne. And now you know what's happening to Taco Bell. New spot, great spot. Everybody else, get out of here. That's how it goes in big business. That's my latest. See ya.
Coming up next.
I want to talk to you about something new that could be coming into the state of Indiana as early as 2029. And here's what it is involving education. Imagine, starting in 2029, you're a high school student and you can decide what kind of diploma you want. You're going, what? Everybody gets one diploma. Well, yeah, that's the way it used to be. It's the way it is right now. But educators are saying, you know, maybe we better start changing things because, well, things ain't working out the way we thought they would. Here's the deal. You could have one diploma that says you're basically planning on going to college, including all the things that you need, the science, the math, all the stuff that you normally need to become a college student. All right, you're planning on going to college. That's perfectly fine. Makes sense. But what if you're not? What if you're one of those people that says, no, I want to learn a trade. I want to learn a craft. I don't need to know about history and biology and calculus or physics or whatever. I need to know how to work. You know, back in the old days when I was young, you used to have kids who were in shop class, kids who were in automotive class, all sorts of other classes they were taking to learn a trade and a craft. Well, now they're thinking in 2029 to offer a secondary diploma, and you can decide, hey, I want to take that track. I want to get a job. I want to get a job while I'm working in high school. I want to earn some shekels. Be ready to go to a trade school or whatever when I get out and learn a craft and a trade to become a specialist in something that you Americans need: plumbers, electricians, HVAC people. We need those people, believe it or not. We don't have enough of them. And more than are retiring, we don't have enough people coming to take their places. You get to something, you got a painter comes to your house, guess how much it's going to cost you? You have an electrician who comes to fix something, guess how much that's going to cost you? A plumber? Yeah, I know, because I had to have all those people come to my place at one time or another, and they ain't cheap. They make a pretty good living. You go to a car dealership now, you go to get your car serviced, and these dealers, we have ASC certified mechanics. You know what? Those are people who are trained, got a sheepskin, says, yep, we're an ASC certified mechanic. Some insurance companies actually require you to take your vehicle to an ASC certified mechanic and not some guy in his backyard. That's what's happening. Now, I'll admit, some educators will say, whoa, these kids need to learn history and science and whatever the hell else they're teaching in high school. But some of the other folks are saying here in Indiana, nah, give the kids a choice. Kids have to determine what they want to do rather than having adults telling them, son, you will be going to college. Maybe not. Not everybody goes. And colleges are becoming so expensive. Who the heck can go there? You want your kid into debt for the rest of their life? President ain't going to be forgiving them, I can guarantee you. So there you go, folks. That's something that could be coming up starting as early as 2029. 2 different diplomas, so pick the one you want. You want the college entrance diploma, or you want the work field entrance diploma? I'm sure that there's going to be a certain number of each class that are going to say, yeah, I want to go to college. And some going, I think I'm going to go to trade school. Place like Ivy Tech and learn welding or learning how to fix cars or learning how to build stuff, like build a house, woodworking. That's what they do at that college. And now more teachers and more educators are figuring out maybe that's what a certain amount of society wants to do, and they will earn one hell of a good living doing it. I, for one, think this is a great idea. And those educators who are saying, no, we can't do that, bull crap, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. People are going to go where they want to go. And many out there are saying, I had to take this class and I have never used information on ancient American history or, in some cases, algebra. I understand. But now you know what's going on. 2 potential diplomas coming to the state of Indiana in 2029. College diploma or working in the world diploma. Pick the one you think you should be doing. That's all I got for you. Now you know. See ya.
Coming up next.
All right, so do you remember when the start of the 2024 election happened earlier this year? Suddenly, it seemed like every court in the United States brought charges against Donald Trump. And I mean, there were, 90-some charges that were brought? Everybody, every state, New York, Georgia, Florida, you name it. In Colorado, they were trying to take him off the ballot. They were trying to do everything possible. Finally, the U.S. Supreme Court stepped in and said, hey, you can't take him off the ballot. That ain't the way things work in America. And there was 9-0. Even the liberal judges says, no, that ain't the way you win an election. Fear. That's what we're dealing with here. It seems to me the Democrats are literally panicked with what's going on in the upcoming election, and that Donald Trump may be moving back into the potential of the White House. Yeah, version 2.0 could be coming. Now, here's some things that have happened, because we're getting into something called lawfare. Oh, you've heard of the term lawfare? Well, maybe you haven't. Lawfare is another nice word of saying warfare, except in this case, it's lawfare, where the party is utilizing the courts of America as a way to keep someone off the ballot. They have tried to use Colorado as one state, tried to take him off the ballot by saying, well, it's constitutional. Supreme Court said, no, you can't do it. Sorry. Let the voters decide. Okay, well, if the voters can't decide, we'll try to get him with a felony. We'll try to put him in jail. We'll do anything we can. We've got to get him off the ballot. That's how they're playing the game, because this is about power. And that's the only thing that matters, folks. The word democracy, the pure word democracy, means majority rules. That's democracy. That's pure democracy. Majority rules. And right now, the Democrats are in the majority. They rule, and they do not want to give it up, and will do anything and everything to ensure they rule. That's what this is. Plain and simple. So, what do you do? Lawfare. Bring suits against him, everything. Well, the down in Florida was supposed to go to trial. Had to do with classified documents that they found in Trump's place. Sort of like Joe Biden had the ones at his place. Well, the judge in this case has postponed the trial indefinitely. Said, no, we're postponing this thing because the courts are beginning to figure out this is BS. These presidents have this stuff. What Trump had, he had secured. And how CNN was given the tip-off to come and follow the FBI when they broke into Mar-a-Lago. People are going, somebody knows about what's going on here. It's lawfare. It is a battle to maintain power. So, court's got the lawsuit going out in New York. DA up in there is trying to sue court for, I'm not sure what. And right now, Michael Cohen, his attorney, is on the stand and is getting taken apart. Because even the attorneys who are viewing this saying, this is going nowhere. You don't know what's going to happen with a jury in New York City. Who knows? But they're saying there's no crime we're seeing here. And everybody asks, our attorneys are going, oh, yeah, this is a piece of garbage. So how will it end up? I don't know. I have no idea how the trial is going to end up. But I can tell you this. The worms are starting to turn, and the voters of the swing states are starting to go, we see what's going on. And even we don't like this kind of nonsense and shenanigans that one party is playing, because the word democracy to them is who's ever in power wants to stay in power, and will do whatever they have to do to ensure that nothing stops them from control. Scary, but that's what democracy means. We don't have a democracy, we have a representative republic, right? It's a difference. Not a pure democracy. Pure democracy, you have two wolves and one sheep, and the wolves decide they're going to eat the sheep. They get to do it because they're majority control. That's what democracy is. We're a representative republic. And that's just my lesson for today. What's going on in New York? Judge down in Florida says, no, it ain't going to work. This thing is postponed. So that's where it stands, folks. Let's see the way it goes. But beyond that, the worm is starting to turn. And now, watch what happens. All right, today I'm going to make a prediction, actually a series of predictions. And for me, this is the most difficult recording I've had to make, and I will probably ever make. And if I'm wrong, and I hope to gosh I'm wrong, I will be happy. But this prediction I'm going to make, I don't think I'm going to be wrong. And it has to do with what's going on in today's society, namely in today's election. Here's what I'm telling you. We all know Donald Trump's on trial in New York City. And the star witness for the prosecution is Michael Cohen, his former personal lawyer, who has he wants revenge against his boss, big time revenge. Now, the prosecution wants to put Trump away in jail the worst way, politics. He actually said when he was running for the job, I'm going to bring a case against Donald Trump. He already did it. The judge He's not apolitical. All right, you're going to say, well, yeah, but justice is what justice is. And I watched the trial. I have followed it. I mean, you can't see the inside, but I followed the trial. Based on everything I've heard, the prosecution has tried to put on a case, and the defense has literally destroyed it. Destroyed it. Everybody saying, no, there's no way. The jury's going to say this is a joke. Well, folks, I'm going to take you back 30 years. 30 years to 1994. It's another trial going on in America. It's against O.J. Simpson. Now, I don't know how many of you were around to remember that, but I was there, not at the trial, but I was an analyst for the radio station I was working at for. And every day I would come into Ron Gregory's show and I would give a recap of what was going on today because that trial was televised. And you could see everything going on. And the prosecution, they had every piece of evidence, every which way you could possibly think. Everybody knew. Everybody knew that O.J. was guilty. Everybody knew it. Except for 12 people. Those 12 people were not going to convict a brother. Because those 12 people despise the legal system, despise police, and O.J. was one of theirs. And he killed a white woman and a white guy. Okay? He was found innocent. Now, people would say, well, it was Johnny Cochran. If the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. That was a clever boy, by the way. O.J. was taking some medication that would cause swelling in his body. And I know what that is because the same thing happened to me. And you have to take another medication to reduce the swelling and get the water out of your body. Well, Johnny Cochran told O.J., stop taking the stuff that gets the water out of your body. I want you to swell up. Now, those gloves he was using, those had been analyzed and put in liquids and what have you. Water will destroy the oils in leather, and those are leather gloves, and make them shrink. It does that. Anybody's got leather gloves, you get them wet soaked, you know they shrink. So they were shrink, and O.J.'s hand was inflated because of the medication he was taking. The glove doesn't fit, he must have quit. Didn't matter. Jury was going to let him off. That was the attitude of the jury in 1994. O.J. was their hero. Now, going back to 2024, people in New York. People in New York are 95, 97% Democrats, and they hate Donald Trump. They do. They make no bones about it. Everybody hates Trump in New York because they think he's big, he's powerful, and they don't like that. New York elects some of the worst people because they're all Democrats, and anybody Republican they hate. So you could say, hey, the jury's been shown all the evidence that Michael Cohen is a fraud, he's a liar. Don't matter, folks. It's what those 12 people think. Jury nullification, it's called. Now, unfortunately, I believe that the jury is going to find him guilty simply because he's Donald Trump and they're Democrats in New York. Now, what's going to happen after that? Well, obviously, Trump's going to say, I'm going to appeal. But here's where it gets dicey. He's going to say, I want to be let on bail while I appeal. And the prosecutor's going to say to the judge, Your Honor, Donald Trump must be confined to the state of New York. He must not be allowed to leave. Because if he gets on an airplane, Your Honor, he can tell that pilot to go anywhere, fly out of the United States. Donald Trump then becomes a flight risk, Your Honor. And the judge who's in the tank on this deal is going to say, yes, I think that's right. He could become. So Donald Trump, remember, he's got the gag order going on. Now you put a restricted on his moving about so he can't go outside of New York, can't campaign. Okay? So he gets convicted. Democrats are going to say, you can't elect America. They're going to put national ads, you can't elect a convicted felon. And there's idiots in this country. People are going to go, oh, man, I don't know if I could vote for a convicted felon. And won't vote. Or either that, or they won't vote, or they will vote for Biden. Either one of those two. However, here's the deal involving the election. Here's my second prediction. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I believe Joe Biden's going to win re-election. Yeah, I hate to say it. Tell you why. Elections are not about popular votes. They're about electoral votes. And right now, in the electoral vote situation, we have certain states they're fighting over. They call them swing states. You got Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, maybe Arizona, and some of those other ones. And those are swing states. Those are the ones that you got to have to get 270 electoral votes. Now, however, you have to understand, in the last election, I didn't realize this till I recently found this out, 70% of the votes, okay? You want me to say that again? 70% of the votes in the 2020 election were either mail-in or absentee ballots. 70% mail-in or absentee ballots. Democrats don't want to give up power. They talk about monopoly. They talk about democracy. We're losing democracy. Democracy simply means who's ever in power runs the rodeo, and they don't want to give up power. So, in those swing states, the people who run the elections are Democrats. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia. We all know what happened. I know some of those people have been charged with stuff for bad elections. Democrats know how to harvest votes better than anybody does. They could get votes, bring them in, and dump them into a voting blocks like nothing you've ever seen. They don't want to give up power. They will do what they have to. It's all about getting the swing votes. It ain't popular votes, folks. It's the swing votes. And in the states that the swing votes are needed are Democrat states. And the Democrats know how to stuff the ballot box with absentee ballots. So my prediction, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I hate to say it, and I do hate to say this, Trump is going to be found guilty by a New York jury because they hate Trump. Regardless of the evidence, it doesn't matter. And two, Biden is going to win the election because in the swing states, Democrats know how to put in the votes because 70% of the votes were mail-in and absentee. And they know how to do that better than anybody else. Those are my predictions for 2024. I hope and I pray I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And I'm saddened and I'm hurt, but you don't want the truth? Maybe you can't handle the truth. But this is the way I see it. And like I said, I hope I'm wrong. That's all I got. Let's see what happens.
Coming up next.
Well, folks, what do you say we talk about the latest trial going on involving a member of the U.S. Senate, Bob Menendez? His trial has started in the state of New York. Now, what you may not know, he was tried for sort of the same stuff he was tried for now in New Jersey. But he's a senator from New Jersey, and for whatever reason, the jury in New Jersey could not find him guilty. And so he got off. Figured, hey, I'm bulletproof. I can't be, charged with anything. Nobody's going to convict me. I'm a senator. Well, now he's being charged in New York. And his trial has officially opened against not just him, but a trial against his wife. So both of them are being tried for pretty much the same, except two separate trials. That's important. Two separate trials, not together. So here's the defense attorney, waltzes up to the jury by opening statement, says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client, Senator Menendez, was smitten by his new wife. He was dazzled by her beauty and by her looks. And there's a picture of her there. You can see it right there. And all this stuff it was her. She did it. She hid all the money. She was doing the deals. She was the one with the gold bars. And they do gold bars in his house. Each of those gold bars is worth around $75,000 a piece. He was taking bribes. He was working for other countries. One of the people involved in this event, who was also on trial, has already pleaded guilty and probably is going to testify if he lives long enough. So, the Menendez defense is, I didn't do it. My wife did it. She knew what was going on, and the evidence will show that she was responsible for everything. She was a dirty-dealing, sniving, dazzling woman who took me to the cleaners. I didn't do nothing. I'm here as the driven snow. All right, that's his defense. what he said in the opening statement, his counselor said. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's just say that the jury buys it. And they're going to try to prove that as much as they can. The wife's fault. She was the evil deed doer. All right. So they find him not guilty, right? Well, maybe. Could happen. All right. So now they try her a couple of months later. She obviously knows that she's been told a bad person. Well, she ain't going to be happy, right? She's not being tried together. She's undergoing treatment for breast cancer. And apparently has breast cancer. And she's not going to be happy, right? So her attorney is going to go, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, she didn't do it. He did it. He manufactured the entire system. He was doing the dirty deals. He's the senator. He was working deals up. I had nothing to do with it. I'm the fall guy in this, but I'm suffering from cancer in hopes the jury will say, we feel bad. And we're going to find her not guilty too. So you see what the plan is? Menendez blames it on his wife. The wife goes, no, it was the husband who did it. They believe her, and she gets off. And together they both get off. That's the plan their attorneys are playing with. And that's the plan they plan to sell to the jury. Will either jury buy it? Don't know. But it should be fun to watch. I wonder what channel they're going to show that on so I can sit there and eat my popcorn and enjoy it. Should be fun. My take, not anybody else's, folks, my take on what I think could very well be happening in the trial of Senator Menendez and his dazzling wife. Just saying. My thoughts. Let's see what you think. See you.
Coming up next.
Well, let me talk to you about a problem that's happening in the United States of America, and actually it was discovered by other people aside from me. Remember Cheers, the TV show, John Ratzenberger, Cliff Clavin? Well, he's now making a warning, said more skilled labor jobs are needed to save civilization. Now, I'm not kidding you. You know, John Ratzenberger, good actor. You saw him on Cheers. He played the mailman. You saw him, he was the voice of Ham, the piggy bank of the movie Toy Story. He went public on this, and he says, hey, we got a problem in America, and people need to understand what's going on. Here's what he said.
That's my fear, that the civilization will grind, it can grind to a halt, because we've neglected to teach our children how to use tools. You know, it started way before I became an actor. I was a carpenter. That was my tools of my trade, was hammer and saw and levels and T-squares and all that. And but I also grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is a factory town, and it's right on the water. So there was a lot of boat yards, people involved in boats. There's people making sewing machines, washing machines. General Electric was there. Anyway, the point is that everybody I knew growing up all knew how to do something. You know, if something was wrong with your plumbing and your father or uncle or yourself didn't know how to fix it, the guy next door knew how. And so everybody would trade off their trades. And every Saturday, all the garage doors were open. And people were there working on something, whether it was retuning their car, building a birdhouse or a sailboat. But everybody had hands-on experience. That's just the way it was. And I thought, obviously, as a young man, that the whole world was like that. And then, later on in my life, I was doing a show called John Ratzenberger's Made in America, where I toured around the country and showed people, the audience, how things are made. Because that was always my fascination, what these hands could do. And the more factories I visited, I realized that there were young people working in those factories. And so I started asking questions to the foreman, to the CEO, and found out that that generation of young people had no skills. They had no foundation and nuts and bolts and putting things together, whereas my generation, we all did. We built tree houses, soapbox racing cars, whatever it was. But as children, we knew how to use tools. And today, unfortunately, that's over. So it's not really being political about anything. I'm trying to save civilization, because civilization was built by people who can put things together. Anytime I speak in a college, for instance, I always start off by saying, never assume you're smarter than the man who put the bricks together in this building. Because that's an art form. It truly is. And we've got, probably in the 60s, turned it all around and started looking down our nose at people who worked with their hands. And that's right in the middle. I helped build the stage at Woodstock. I was there, but more and more people were surprised and shocked that I or any of my colleagues knew how to do stuff. And it's even gotten more severe now. There are people, believe it or not, are 30, 40 years old who don't know how to hang a picture. For the last 20 years, I've been going around the country giving speeches and talks to anybody to listen, really big organizations, and went to Congress twice, to blow my clarion call, say, folks, we got to wake up. And so we'll see what happens. But that's my fear, that the civilization will grind, and can grind to a halt, because we've neglected to teach our children how to use tools.
And there's the problem. Experts have said that we are going to be short about 1.5 million people working in manufacturing facilities over the next 10 years. People just thought, just get a college degree and you'll be perfect. You don't need anything else. Well, when something goes wrong, who fixes your car? A mechanic. When the plumbing in your house goes bad, who do you call? A plumber. When the lights don't work in your house, you're going to get in there and fiddle with the electrical cables and stuff? You could. Of course, you could die, too. That's why you call electrician. These people that know how to do stuff. Air conditioning doesn't work. You got to call an HVAC specialist. We've lost that trade. It used to be when I was in high school in the 50s and 60s, you had shop class. People learned this stuff. Yeah, you had home ec, of course. But shop class for people who worked. They had automotive classes. Those fell by the wayside because people said, well, you got to have a college degree. Well, folks, better understand something. You don't. Today, people are starting to learn something. If you learn a trade, you learn a craft, it's good for your entire life. We're lucky in our area. We have Ivy Tech. Now, Ivy Tech specializes in teaching people trades, crafts. Biggest thing they do is teach nursing. Good, we need nurses. But they also teach people a lot of other stuff. How to work with electronics. Boards, computers, stuff that goes on. How to build a house. Yeah, they do that. How to fix your air conditioning. How to build air conditioning systems. HVAC stuff. Yep, they do that too. And even teach people to become mechanics. That's right, they become ASC certified mechanics. This is what you learn in a college like Ivy Tech. John Ratzenberger's right. We've lost the skills, and we're going to be short of people in the manufacturing process in the next 10 years. Big short, like 1 million, almost 2 million people. Get smart. You got a kid in your family, he's smart, working with something, doesn't necessarily need to go to college. You can earn one heck of a living being a mechanic or a plumber or an electrician. Yeah, all of those things can be done. And it'll cost you a whole lot less money to learn it at a place like Ivy Tech. Just saying what's going on. John Ratzenberger is telling you the same thing. America's lost something they shouldn't. Hopefully, we can start working to get it back. That's my thought on it. See ya.
Coming up next.
Okay, I want to talk to you parents out there that have kids in college. And if you have kids in an Ohio college, you might want to think about what's going on, because the Attorney General of the state of Ohio, his name is Dennis Yost, has said that he is now going to tell prosecutors to utilize a law in Ohio that was passed in 1953. And this law could result in, if your kids are in college and you're protesting and they're wearing masks, face masks and bandanas and anything else to hide their face, they could be charged with a felony. That's right. In Ohio in 1953, a law was passed that said that any two or more people showing up into some place could be charged with a felony. Well, I'll read you the exact wording. It says, no person shall unite with two or more others to commit a misdemeanor while wearing white caps, mask, or other disguise. That's right out of the law. So it was intended for the Ku Klux Klan back in the days of the 50s when they wrote this law, but mask, that's what the kids are wearing on campus so they can't be identified. So, as I'm hitting them with a misdemeanor, it's called the anti-disguise law. It's punishable by a fourth-degree felony charge, up to $5,000 fine, and 5 years of community service. So the Attorney General is telling all the prosecutors in the state, hey, we got this law in the books. You can use it. Charge these kids. Now, I got to tell you something. Kid gets charged with a felony on his record. Try getting a job in the public. That's going to carry on for the entire life. You got a felony on your record. When an employer does a background check, bing, it pops up. You can say, well, I was protesting on campus. It was an antiquated law from the 50s having to do with the Ku Klux Klan. Yes, I was protesting. I don't care what you did. You got a felony in your record, son or lady. So the Ohio Attorney General telling prosecutors, we got a law. They disguise themselves, arrest them, and charge them with a felony, because that's what the law from 1953, designed for the Klan, but include masks. And they're wearing masks. Just something to say. You want to be outraged about something? Well, if you have a student in Ohio somewhere and they get caught doing this, you may spend a lot of time in a courtroom. And you may have to hire attorneys to see if you can get this all the way to the Supreme Court to see if it's legal. Just saying. New law in Ohio? No. An old law in Ohio that's being discovered up and used against kids who disguise themselves at college protests. Now they can be arrested and charged with a felony. Just thought you might want to know. That's all I got for you today. See ya.
Coming up next.
Okay, how many of you have heard of Aldi's grocery stores? Show of hands. Well, Aldi's is a European company that started up here in the United States, and they sell brands that, maybe you're not used to seeing because they're not really well-known brands. And they have a lot of other policies. They don't stock a whole lot of stuff like regular grocery stores do. And when you check out, you got to use your own bags, and that's the way you cart your groceries. So it's just cheaper. Everything in Aldi's is cheaper, but my wife has gone to Aldi's and said, they got some pretty good deals. And let's face it, one of the big things we're concerned about this year is the cost of food and how much it's gone up. So more folks are deciding to shop in places like Aldi's for their food. Now, we have, 2 locations, I believe, in Fort Wayne. Well, they've announced they're going to cut the prices of 250 of the items in their stores during the summer. So we're going to help folks out, help make their lives a little bit easier. And things used for barbecues, picnics, those kind of things, summer stuff, and something called good for you foods. And I don't know what good for you foods are, but apparently Aldi's does. So they're making some really great specials going on. And Aldi's is planning, believe it or not, of adding 800 more stores in the next 5 years into the area, into the United States. More and more people are thinking, hey, if I got to buy an off-brand, I will. got cost because your grocery prices have gone up over 20% since COVID. Well, checking some of the prices for Aldi's, and I thought, oh, pass this along to you. Here's one. USDA Choice Black Angus Steak. Currently $8.49. Now they're going to drop it to $6.99, and that will be good through, let me see, good through July the 10th. So you got between now and July the 10th to buy your Black Angus steak for like $6.99 instead of $8.49. And a family pack of chicken breast. I like chicken breast, great to cook on the grill or use it other things. Well, that was chicken breast was $2.49. Well, now they've dropped it down to $2.19. That would be good through July 10th also. How about Park Street Deli pulled pork or chicken? Ever had pulled chicken? That's going from $7.49 to $6.99. So if you want to save money, you might consider what they're doing at Aldi to lower the prices. Can't say they're doing it for everything, but hey, if it's cheaper and it's still just as good, maybe it doesn't have a big fancy name on it, and you have to carry in your own bags to carry your food out, which is sort of like you got to do at Wally World or, at Sam's Club and Costco, correct? So, Aldi's. It's what they're doing. Cheaper items this summer to help you on your grocery budget. Just saying, at least one company has decided they want to help you out, and that's what they're doing. Thought I'd pass that along to you. Use it as you see fit. Go forth and save some money.
Coming up next.
Well, here's a new one for you, and it involves coffee shops, namely Starbucks. Now, Starbucks has been around for a while. They have 17,000 places that you can go buy your coffee for a whole lot of money. And I've always wondered about that because I don't drink coffee anymore. But all the people going to Starbucks, getting these fancy Starbucks coffees with macchiato, with this, that, and the other, spending $8 or whatever for a cup of coffee. And I couldn't understand why people did that. They said, well, it's unique, it's different. You see the baristas, it's a different atmosphere. You can go there and enjoy yourself having a Starbucks. Well, it turns out that luster of the Starbucks machine may be wearing off. Why? Their sales are down about 3%. Now, most people would say, oh, 3%, nothing, not a big deal. Well, in the world of coffee and Starbucks, it is a big deal. It's a tremendous deal simply because, well, they depend upon the amount of money they're making, especially off those $8 cups of coffee people are buying. The reason is, people are saying, well, the baristas aren't as nice as they used to be. It's not a fun event going to a Starbucks where they treat you like you're special. Now they just treat you like you're a plain everyday customer. Yeah, what do you want? Put your name on the cup and probably spell it wrong. More people are finding out other coffee shops, probably a nicer atmosphere. Baristas are nicer, and the coffee ain't expensive. That's what's happening. Now, Starbucks is in court right now because, well, a lot of unions wanted to get Starbucks employees as part of their organization. Starbucks didn't want that. Starbucks fought it, so now they've gone to the Supreme Court over the NLRB, getting along with the baristas, the unions, and the labor boards. I don't know how that case is going to end up. We'll find out eventually. But people are beginning to say, Starbucks is not what we thought it used to be. Folks are saying, hey, you can't go there anymore and set up shop and sit for a few hours writing your book or whatever you're doing, because Starbucks ain't the same as it used to be. When one group wanted to wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts and their management said, no, you can't do that, created an entire mess. That mess continues to roll over even today. So if you're thinking about coffee, just ask yourself, do you want a Starbucks for $8? Or a plain everyday cup of Java for $3? I don't drink coffee anymore because I can't do caffeine, but for me, coffee's coffee, okay? That's all I care about. If I was into coffee, and I don't need tons of stuff put in it. You get coffee for caffeine, right? At least I thought that's what people did. But I could be wrong. But anyway, here's the deal. Starbucks is losing its luster. Who knew that would ever happen? But it did. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
All right, I'm going to tell you about a story that you're probably not going to believe, but it's actually true. And it took place in Midland, Michigan. Now, Midland's about 130 miles north of Detroit, 42,000 population. I believe Dow has a factory in that facility. It's one of those older cities in Michigan, kind of a rust belt, you know. It's deteriorating, and it's not vibrant. Sorry, but it's the truth. Well, anyway, they have a grocery store in Midland called Family Fare Supermarkets. And there's a big sign on the top of the store. And here, if you're taking a look at this, you can see what it looks like. See that sign there? Well, that sign is about 5'8" by roughly 5 by 8 inch foot. So you got 5 feet across 8 feet high. And it's actually like there's a hollow shell, if you will, and a door on it. Leads to the inside of where this sign is. Well, Midland, Michigan, they discovered a 34-year-old woman had been living inside of the sign for a year. That's right. A 34-year-old homeless woman had been living in the sign for a year. And inside of the sign, they found a printer, computer, clothes, and a Keurig coffee maker. You're saying, well, okay, fine. How'd she get the power for it? Well, on the top of the roof of this grocery store was a power outlet. She simply took a power cord and ran it from the outlet inside the sign. She powered all the stuff inside the sign box. Now, workers found it, and they went, oh, man, what are we going to do with this? Well, they said, hey, sweetheart, you can't live here. Send her over to organizations that handle this kind of stuff. They don't know what happened to the woman. They don't know where she went, but she ultimately left. And they haven't been able to figure out how she kept getting on top of the roof. No one really knows how she did it. But she did. Barely had a job. At least that's what the word was. So she's not suffering any penalties or anything like that. She just got it packed up and went away. But there's the plight of what we got people going on. You have somebody living in a sign, 5 foot by 8 foot box. But clothes, computer, desk, printer. Don't know if she had internet. I have no way of knowing that, so don't ask. But 34-year-old homeless woman. I got to give her credit. Talk about ingenuity. She has that hands down. But found a place to live in Midland. You know, in the winter, up there it gets pretty cold. So I don't know how she survived. Couldn't tell you. But I do know this. She's been offered some other place to go, some other services. Don't know what she took, don't know what she did. But now you know a story about Midland, Michigan, Family Fare Supermarket, and a woman who was living in their sign for over a year and had all the accoutrements of home. Who knew? Well, now you know. And there you go. That's all I got. See ya.
Coming up next.
You know, in today's society, virtually everybody uses GPS, ground positioning system. Now, GPS was originally invented for use by the U.S. military many years ago, but like everything else, it gets turned into civilian use. Now, I'm pretty much going to bet that you or everybody you know somehow uses GPS. And maybe in your phone, you just pick up your phone, plug in you can pull the app up, and there you got GPS, whether it's through Waze or CarPlay or whatever you've got going on. There's so many different versions of GPS available. You just plug in where you want to go, and it takes you there. It's pretty simple to do. In the military, we use GPS. Matter of fact, back in the old days, when I was flying with the Strategic Air Command of the Air Force, on our planes, we have a navigator. And the navigator would navigate the skies and tell us where we're going and where we are. Things pilot use, VORs, TACANs, those kind of things. Those are used by airplane pilots. And we all use them in the airplanes. But when you're getting over the ocean or over uncharted areas, well, you don't have any of those things available. So how do you know where you're going? How do you know what you are? Well, we use an old thing that the sailors used to use years and years ago, a sextant. Yeah, that's the guy you see the guy out there, looks like he's got a thing going on. He's looking up at the sun, what have you. It's a sextant. We use the same thing in airplanes, except in our airplane, there's a little port that plugs into it at the top of the ceiling behind the navigator's position. And the boom operator, normally he would get up there and he'd have the sextant and they'd be picking up the star. And wherever you are, you measure the angle between certain stars. And because stars are always permanent where they are, you can gauge and say, well, we're that many degrees of that one, that many degrees of that one. That must mean we're right X. That is celestial flying, it's called. Now, we use that in the Air Force. Now, what's happened is that, like everybody else, we've gotten GPS in our airplanes. We don't have navigators anymore. We have GPS. Here's the problem. There's something happened. It could be a lot of things that knocked out the global positioning system in the world. Because there's satellites. Satellites surround the Earth, and they're basically they're coordinated. Your GPS equipment measures satellite and that satellite and that satellite and says, okay, I know where those three are, so that means it has to be down here. And it tell you where you are. Now, let's say that system is destroyed. Could be anything. Biggest thing people worry about is war. Well, if that satellite system goes down, the GPS system goes down, how are we going to find out where we're going? How do we know where we're going? How do we know where we are? Well, the Air Force is adopting something new. Here it is. The Air Force is utilizing intelligence. They're now testing in our airplane. And AI actually measures the magnetic surface of the Earth, our magnetic poles. And somehow, and don't ask me how because I don't know, says, okay, I know the pole is here, pole is there. I know the magnetic forces of the Earth, and that means we are X marks the spot. Computer can do that by using the magnetic system that's the Earth. AI is coming, folks, and it's going to be big and bigger than you could possibly imagine. So now, if the GPS system goes down, AI could stand in and do it for you. Just something to brief you on, something you may not know about, but now you know. That's all I got for you. See you.
Coming up next.
Well, you may be wondering what the price of gas is going to be putting in the old family truckster, right? Well, you've seen it going up and down, and we've seen it right now as high in Fort Wayne, $3.69. It varies around the country what gas costs based on the refineries in the area, and it can be more expensive on the West Coast, Alaska, Hawaii, and obviously that's pretty obvious there. But price around here is probably somewhere in the range of $3.49, $3.50 a gallon. We've seen it $3.69. But why does it keep going up and down? Why does it keep down? Well, big reason is simple. The price of a barrel of oil. Now, barrel of oil is running right now somewhere around $80 a barrel. And it can get down to a low price. I've seen it down to $60 a barrel. That's when gas is really cheap because the oil's cheap. Or the oil gets really expensive when you see it get up to $100 a barrel. And we have seen that happen too. You know, you get yourself wars in the Middle East where the oil comes from. Everything depends upon the price of oil. And I hate to say this, in many people's minds is more valuable than gold. I realize gold is pretty doggone valuable. Let's be honest, it is. But oil is a commodity. And the world runs on oil. That world, you could say, well, the world doesn't run on gold. Well, in some ways it does, because that's our monetary situation. But oil is what we live on in America. Oil is what we live on in the rest of the world. Price of a barrel of crude goes up and down. So you're going to see it $78, $80, $82. So whatever the market allows, or whatever the world situation allows. So if you see this big jump in prices, let's say the price jumps up, say 30 or 40 cents from one day to the next. You're going up there going, what? It went up that much? Hey, what it is. That means the people who are buying gas from the oil companies, like they say, hey, they're just going on what could happen, not necessarily what will happen, but what the market says could happen. So now, if you wonder what's going on, that's what's happening. Well, the price of oil goes down during this. Depends on people driving, but summer's driving time. People do. That's gas stations. That's the American way. That's capitalism, folks. That's capitalism. Now you know what's going on. So, talk among yourselves. We'll see you.
Coming up next.
Well, if you're a fan of the Red Lobster, especially their cheddar biscuits, I have some unfortunate news for some of you. Not all of you, but some of you are going to be rather disappointed because Red Lobster is going to be shutting down 50 plus of their restaurants. Now, they've got a couple of hundred of these nationwide. They're everywhere if you think about it. But they decided to shut a whole bunch of them down because they're losing their shirt. Now, how'd that happen? Well, apparently they instituted a new plan. All the shrimp you could eat. I don't know about you, but if someone tells me all the shrimp I can eat, I'm going to eat a whole lot of shrimp when I go to Red Lobster. I like Red Lobster. And they're a place where the whole family can go to. And times I've gone to Red Lobster and you got to wait out in the parking lot so quick. But times have changed, folks. People's tastes have changed. What people want has changed. New restaurants come along, they always do. And maybe some of those restaurants you used to like, well, they're not as popular anymore. Things change. That's about constant. That's what nature is. Now, I can tell you one of the restaurants that is closed, Red Lobster, is in Indianapolis. We got one in Fort Wayne. I don't know if it's closing. I don't think it is. I think it's still popular among folks who want to go there and eat their cheddar biscuits. Haven't been there in a while, but they do have their specials that come up. And I frankly like the specials. But it does happen. So, if you like Red Lobster, better enjoy it while you can, because maybe, just maybe, the Red Lobster franchise might be dying. Now you know. Go forth and eat some more shrimp. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, what do you say I give you a little bit of encouraging news? Maybe some good news for a change. How about this? MIT, University of North Carolina, and other schools around the United States have decided that DEI ain't going to work. That's right. Colleges around the United States are starting to dump DEI programs, saying they don't work. And they don't work. That's a fact. Putting the diversity, inclusion, and equity as the rule of the game is nothing more than a Marxist game. And you can't make everything equal, everybody equal, and it just ain't going to work because the cream will always find its way to the top. You want the best people in a job. You don't want them based upon their color, their nationality, or their sexual orientation. It's not the way we work. You work by being the best of the best. And those who are the best, they rise to the top. So now MIT said, hey, this ain't working. University of North Carolina, hey, this ain't working. And guess what? Some schools down south have decided, when they got rid of all the Confederate names off the schools and the statues and everything else, guess what? They're bringing them back. Why? Tradition. If you don't pay attention to the past, you'll repeat it. That's why the past exists. You got to take a look at the past, see what was going on in the past. Because if you don't follow the past has a way of repeating itself. And some of the past ain't good, folks. So, looks like DEI, or what I call it DIE, is being nixed. And you know where they're putting that money that they invested in DEI? Back into police departments where it belongs. So all those people saying, oh, hey, get rid of police. We don't need police. They're fine. People are going, you know what we do? DEI money is now going back into police and public safety because all those people out there saying, get rid of police. We don't need them. We hate police. Without police, you don't have anybody to keep society under control. And when that happens, you develop into anarchy. You develop into war. You develop into factions. And you end up fighting what the hell is going on in the Middle East. Tribe against tribe. We don't need that. So now colleges are getting rid of their DEI programs, and schools are renaming the schools back like they used to be named. Stupidity from COVID appears to be ending, and it's about damn time. At least that's my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. Now you know how I feel. Decide what you feel. Go forth. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, folks, there it is. The newest, fastest, and hopefully the most fun ride at Cedar Point. It's the Top Thrill 2. And it's been in the works for a long time, and a lot of promos have been done on it, and a lot of people anticipating it coming out. And it's just opened at Cedar Point. Well, it just opened. Probably the operative term. Because now, as of yesterday, May the 12th, the ride has been shut down. Apparently, something happened. And according to the press release that said that they have had to shut it down because someone apparently on the ground was hit by a piece of metal. I don't know what type of metal. I don't know what it was. Apart from the machine, I don't know any of those answers. But they closed the ride down at Cedar Point until they could get the engineers, the institute group, and all the people who understand this concept to get it totally retested and reevaluated and making sure that nothing is wrong because Cedar Point doesn't want lawsuits. The person who got hit with whatever hit them, I don't know what it was, like I said, well, chances are they're probably going to sue. That's what people do. Figure they get money in the deal because something supposedly fell off the ride. But here's the thing I was wondering. What if it was someone's necklace? Something on they didn't take off. This ride goes like 120 miles an hour. And, well, maybe, just maybe, they didn't remove all the items and it fell off. It could be a little pin or a little something. Who knows? But whatever it is, the Top Thrill 2 is now closed. This is being recorded on May the 13th. So I can't tell you when it's going to go out, but you can check the Cedar Point website. They will tell you when it's cleared, when it's open. Don't know when it'll be, but at least now you know. Replan your vacation. You plan to ride the Top Thrill 2, because it's shut down right now at Cedar Point. See ya.
Coming up next.
A man, 28 years old, kicker with the Kansas City Chiefs, was a speaker at a commencement ceremony at a Catholic college in Kansas. I think it's called Benedictine College. And he got up there, and when you're a commencement speaker, you're talking to a whole bunch of Catholics, I presume, who are graduating from this Catholic college. And he was speaking to them, but somehow video was taken, as it happens all the time. Everybody's got a phone. And what he said to the graduates has now gone viral, including what amounts to is some 200,000 individuals have contacted and written a petition to the NFL saying he must be fired from his job. He must be given the boot because of what he said, what he thinks. Apparently, the First Amendment only applies to people on college campuses complaining about what's going on between Israel and Hamas. That's free speech, of course. But if he has something he wants to say in the privacy of a Benedictine college commencement, he's to be fired and tossed out of his job. Well, Mr. Hutker, Harrison Hutker, Georgia Tech graduate, so he's not a graduate of this college, was asked to speak at their commencement. Small Benedictine college, Catholic college. And I got the screen there for what he said, some of the things he said during his remarks. And I want you to hear some of what he said. The world around us says we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. DIE, folks. We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately, truth is in the minority. Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail. And he went on. You should be proud that all of you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think that as you, women, he's talking to ladies, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you, how many of you are sitting here about to cross the stage and are thinking all about the promotions and titles you're going to get in your career? And a lot of women are going to be doing that. What I have to say, some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, and some of them will. But I would venture to guess the majority of you all are most excited about your marriage and your children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and a mother. Now, anybody have any problem with that? Then he went on to say, I'm on the stage today and able to be a man that I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me. He's a great kicker, 3 Super Bowl rings. But it cannot be overstated that my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. She's a primary educator to our children. She's the one who endures. I have never let football or my business become a distraction from all that a husband and a father. She is the person that knows me best at my core. Now, he's being vilified for this. The NFL said, well, he doesn't stand for what we believe in. Said the diversity officer in the NFL. Yeah, 200,000 people said he should be fired. Sorry, folks. The wife of the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs said, hey, what are you guys talking about? This guy's died a father, believes what he believes, believes in family, believes in children. And how many women out there would rather be homemakers if they could? Maybe they almost have to because the cost of society, cost of living today is so much both people have to work. I don't fault this guy. I fault the people who are saying his job should be cut and he should be relieved of whatever he does in life. Last time I saw this was about a few years ago when another gentleman came out and professed his faith, who was a great football player and who was basically shunned by the NFL. His name was Tim Tebow. He had beliefs too. So apparently anybody who happens to quote their faith will be shunned and treated as dirt. That, unfortunately, folks, is the world in which we live today. But weirdly enough, some folks are saying that, hey, if he wants to speak, it's his opinion, and it's a free country, and you can say what you want to say. And you know what? That's correct. It is called freedom of speech, and he's utilizing his, whether anyone likes it or not. And if you don't like it, don't listen. And in the words of Jack Nicholson, you don't want the truth. You can't handle the truth. That's all I've got to say about that. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, let me tell you folks about a little something that's coming up, and I'm going to warn you first. So when it happens, you can say, oh, I knew somebody was saying something about this, because I'm going to say something about it. It was just announced the upcoming fall schedule for the NFL. And that's pretty good. You could talk about Indianapolis, Chicago Bears, Cleveland, Cincinnati, whomever you want to talk to. But let's talk about scheduling games on television. Now, I don't know about you, but Most people on Sunday, they like to sit out in front of the TV on Sunday afternoon, going into Sunday night, even into Monday or whatever, watching their favorite teams or football games being played around the country. Let's face it, we all do that, at least most of us do. Now, a lot of games over the years have changed where they're being broadcast from. Mostly, the games have been on NBC, ABC, CBS had Monday night football back in the day. Well, all the networks have it, but something interesting has started to occur. The games are appearing on, well, what amounts to is pay-per-view. Years ago, when I lived down in Florida, I had the Dish Network, and you could buy the NFL package. And I did, and it cost about, $300 and some dollars, whatever it was, because I wanted to be able to watch the Indianapolis Colts play in Florida, where the only thing you saw was Tampa Bay or Jacksonville. So I paid for it. Yes, I did. Well, now it was announced by the NFL for the first time, starting this year, Netflix. Netflix, that cable streaming service? That's right, the internet cable service, Netflix. I don't have it. Don't want to pay that kind of money. Netflix is going to be broadcasting games on Christmas this year and next year. 25 and 26, I'm sorry. 25 and 26. First one is going to be Kansas City versus Pittsburgh. Following year is Baltimore and Houston. But I'm telling you, this is the beginning. Before you know it, those football games that you used to watch on NBC, CBS, and ABC, you'll have to pay for them online. That's where the NFL is going. It's about money, folks. And if they can do every game pay-per-view in one way, shape, or form on internet systems like Netflix and Amazon Prime, Peacock, everybody's going to those internet TV channels where you have to pay to see it. So if you Kansas City fans out there want to see your Kansas City, you're going to have to subscribe to Netflix. Not watching NBC, CBS, or ABC. It's coming. It's coming soon. And now you have been warned. Go forth and talk about it. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, here's a news story for you, and especially you young parents out there, or you young folks thinking about becoming parents. What are you planning on naming your child? Seems to me that's a big story that goes on out there. There's an organization that every year puts out the top list of baby names. I mean, like 1,000 names. Turns out this year, once again, the top name for boys is Liam, and the top name for girls is Olivia. Well, Liam's been around for the last 7 years, the number one name, and Olivia the last 5. Emma used to be number one. But I don't know about you, but they don't do anything for me. And the problem with it, people naming their kids, they don't realize that their kids have to grow up. And their kids have to live in an environment with other kids. And pray that their child is not picked on for his or her name. That's a problem. Now, is it a problem for everybody? No. But maybe I'm old school, and I guess I am old school because of my name. My name is Pat. And how I got that name, it's a family joke, which I didn't know. Apparently, years ago, I had a cousin. His name was Mike. Now, back in that era, and we're talking after World War II, Pat and Mike jokes were all the big thing. I didn't know that, and frankly, don't know it even today. But so you had a Mike, so someone said to my parents, hey, we need you to name your son Pat so we could have Pat and Mike jokes with the 2 kids. And apparently they did. So that's where my name came from. Yeah, I've got a brother. His name is William. Standard tough name. Got a sister. And these are standard names. They're not fancy names. They're names that go back 200-300 years. I don't know. Maybe. But the concept of naming your kids Liam or Olivia, you got to understand, regardless of what you name your kids, they're going to have to deal with that when they grow up in school. And kids can be brutal to other kids. In case you haven't figured that out, maybe it didn't happen to you, but it happened to other kids. And they were teased for their name. They used to make sayings, jokes, what have you. But, hey, in America, everybody wants to name their son Liam or their daughter Olivia. For years. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm old school. But if I were to have a kid today, they ain't even know one of those names. That ain't going to happen. Because I know what I named my daughters. And I think their names came out pretty good. That's just my thought on this. Top baby names in the U.S. Liam and Olivia. I think they could probably make a movie out of that. West Side Liam. Or Olivia. Oh, well. Either way, now you know what's going on in the world. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, what do you say we talk about basketball for a little bit? Not just basketball, the WNBA. Let's drill a little deeper. How about Caitlin Clark? That's right. Caitlin Clark finally opened up her season, if you will, with the WNBA and the Indianapolis Fever in a preseason game. Now, I want you to understand this, preseason game. Now, normally, let's set this up. Normally, for the women down in Indianapolis, the Fever, they would play in front of 4,000 people. That was it. You can put those at a gym for most part, playing at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. But for this preseason game, 14,000 showed up. 14K. Now, she started off a little bit slow. She only had like 20 or 12 points in 31 minutes, but she put on a show. Her passing, like many of those ladies had never seen. Yes, she was muscled up pretty good by the opposite team she was playing. They won 83-80, close game. But when she hit a 3-point shot, I think the third quarter, and created excitement. People were there wearing her jersey number, 22. That's the kind of excitement this one young lady has brought to Indianapolis and to the WNBA. Now, in 1998, Peyton Manning showed up. You all remember that? Rocked the house. People showed up. Heck, I went down to Indianapolis to see the games. But that's what he did. Now, Caitlin Clark, she's no Michael Jordan, but boy, she's a lot closer to Larry Bird than most people would think. She's got time to mature. She's got time to get better. But there she is, playing the game she loves and winning 83-80 in a preseason game. But let me tell you something even better. Here's even better news. Because it has now been announced, Channel 21 Alive, I guess they call themselves, has now announced they're going to carry 17 of the women's games, not just in Fort Wayne, but in Fort Wayne, Cincinnati, Evansville, Lexington, and South Bend. They're going to be featured on My TV, which is one of the digital sites. 17 games featuring Caitlin Clark. She has become a star. She is a star, and people are going, yeah, finally, something to root about for the ladies. And even down in Indy, the talk is big.
Coming up next.
Well, I don't know if you're a fan of cartoons on TV. I know when I was young, Saturday mornings, you get up, you watch the Bugs Bunny Theater and saw the Bugs Bunny commercials. Love those. I mean, that was sitting there with your cereal bowl watching Bugs Bunny. Yeah, I love going to movies where they had a Bugs Bunny cartoon. It made things pretty cool. Well, commercials have changed, and so has cartoons. Cartoons today, most parents are pretty annoyed with them. It turns out there is a cartoon series that a lot of adults like for their kids. I didn't know what it was, but I learned from my granddaughters this is their favorite cartoon. It's about a dog and his family, things they go through. Turns out it's from Australia, which I didn't know, but now I know. Yep, that's what's going on. Bluey is happening. As a matter of fact, more Bluey is coming. There's Bluey right there with his dad, Bandit, his mom, Chili. You had Bluey and Bingo, Bluey's sisters. Well, it turns out new episodes are coming. And the Australian program, that's where it comes from, they're going to introduce 20 new shorts written by Bluey creator Jim Brum and produced by Ludo Studios. They're going to be coming to Disney Plus. Starting in July, Bluey minisodes they're calling them. So now I don't have Disney Plus, but I'm sure my daughter's parents do, or my granddaughter's parents do, and they'll be able to watch them if that's what they have. So if you're a fan of Bluey, and the young kids apparently are, news to me. But now, new episodes are coming in July on Disney Plus. 20 new ones. Bluey for the kids. There you go. Now you know.
Coming up next.
If you happen to listen to radio or television back a number of years ago, there's a person you may have listened to by the name of Paul Harvey. And you might remember Paul Harvey did his daily radio show. I think it lasted around 15 minutes. And then on the Saturday, he did a thing called The Rest of the Story. Well, I have come up with what I consider to be the rest of the story, which struck me as kind of interesting, kind of like Paul Harvey used to do. And I thought, well, I'll give this a go. So here's my version of Paul Harvey's The Rest of the Story. It goes back into 1929. It was an evening, lovely evening. A couple of gentlemen by the name of William Lear and Elmer Waverling decided to take two girlfriends, dollies if you will, to an outlook point above the Mississippi River near Quincy, Illinois. Wanted to see the sunset. And while they were there with these two young ladies on this point overlooking the sunset, one of the young ladies said, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we had some music to go with this? Well, obviously, she made a suggestion. The guys went, that might work. That's pretty cool. So after their little evening thing, didn't go well, by the way, they went to tinkering around. They said, hey, we might be able to come up with something like that. Mr. Lear had been a radio man in the Navy during World War I, so he was kind of familiar with radios. And he and Wavery got together and started tinkering with radios, because they had radios, back in 1929. They were powered by AC. And they said, hey, how do we get this thing to work? Because you realize if you put a radio in a car, you got things like spark plugs and switches and generators. They make a god-awful amount of electrical interference. You can't really hear the radio. And this happens on AM radio because, when you have a lightning storm, you hear all the crackling and stuff in the AM radio. That's why FM beat out AM radio anyway. So they had AM back there. So they had to get rid of the crackling. How did they fix that? Well, turns out there was a guy who created was working on a piece to allow a radio to work on a car. And so they met up with this guy in a convention in Chicago. The gentleman's name was Paul Glavin. Had a company called Glavin Manufacturing, and he made a product called the battery eliminator. And I think it was like an alternator or something like that. And it allowed a battery-powered radio to run on household AC current. Well, that's fine, but most home radios were wired for electricity, and radio manufacturers then made, AC-powered radios. They weren't DC-powered. That was a problem for cars. But Mr. Glavin needed something, because, back in 29, things weren't really good, so he needed something. So when Lear and Wavering came to the convention, he said, hey, these guys got the great idea. So he decided to get with them and mass produce car radios, figuring, hey, this is going to be a huge business, make a lot of money. Well, they set up shop in this guy's factory, and problem was they needed money. And this is where it gets interesting. So Glavin goes to his banker for a loan. And in order to prove it to the banker, he said, this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. He said, Mr. Baker, let me put this radio in your car. And you try it out and see what works. Because that was the way to show the banker, hey, loan us the money because here's what we can do. So they put this radio in this banker's, I think it was a Packard. Yeah, it was a Packard. Well, half an hour after they put it into the Packard caught on fire. Yeah, that's what happened. The banker's car burned up and they didn't get the loan, obviously. So Mr. Glavin, he wasn't going to give up on this thing. So he took his Studebaker and he drove 800 miles to Atlantic City, New Jersey, where there was another convention going on. It was called the Radio Manufacturers Association Convention. The year was 1930. Now, Mr. Glavin didn't have the money to buy a booth, didn't have the money to get in the show. So you know what he did? Parked outside the convention hall, turned up the radio in his car, and had it blaring so everybody could hear it. People walking into the convention goes, what the hell is that? They come over to the car and go listen to KDKA out of Pittsburgh, I presume, because there weren't many radio stations back then. So anyway, they listened to that going, guy's got a radio in the car. Well, that's really cool. Well, tell you what, he ended up getting a deal. That's right. He ended up getting a deal. The first radio he made was called the 5T71. I don't know why they had that number, but he said, I got to come up with a better name. I got to come up with a better name. And back in those days, companies wanted names that had anything to do with sound or anything like that, said Ola. Okay, put it on Ola at the end of a name. All right? So you had the Radiola, the Columbia Ola, and even the Victoria Ola. And so they said, well, okay, I guess we've got to use that name. And he said, well, it goes into a motor coach. So why don't we call it Motorola? Really? Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Let's call the company Motorola. That was 1930. Now, yep, back then in 1930, it cost $110 to get a radio installed in your vehicle. The problem was that was uninstalled. So $110 uninstalled. I'm sorry, I made that mistake. Uninstalled radio. And to install it, well, it took 28-page manual to install it. You had to rip apart the car for the most part. And back then, a car cost $650. So you want to sell something for $110. It cost $650. And if you take in today's money, that's about $3,000. Okay. So what cost about $110 back then? Now, if you want to get your car, it costs you $3,000. Not many people are going to do that. And frankly, not many people did. But Motorola became the name of this company. And back in 1933, Ford Motor Company decided to put the Motorola's in their cars, pre-installed in the factory in 1934. And then ultimately they struck a deal with B.F. Goodrich Tire Company. And here was the deal. B.F. Goodrich, they would sell the radios to B.F. Goodrich stores, and the stores would do the installation. Worked out. B.F. Goodrich liked it. And they were off and running. And in 1947, Glad Manufacturing officially changed their name to Motorola. That was the name. And obviously, you know what Motorola has done over the years. There's everything from walkie-talkies to radio to phones, telephones. The old, and you carry around a cell phone, Motorola. All that stuff came out back in, I think that was 1973 when they first made the first one. I remember I had a brick was called. Remember those things, the brick? Anyway, Motorola. Well, those two gentlemen ended up taking different paths in life. Mr. Wavering stayed with Motorola, but Bill Lear decided to go do something else. As a matter of fact, Bill Lear has got himself 150 patents, and you know what he created? The Learjet. That's right. The world's first mass-produced business jet. Now, let me tell you this. Bill Lear dropped out of school after the 8th grade. He had an 8th grade education and built a Learjet. Sometimes it's fun to find out things that you and I take for granted. All these things happen. And why did they happen, ladies and gentlemen? All because of the suggestion of a woman. You heard me right. The suggestion of a woman. And now you know the rest of the story. All right, folks, I'm going to give you another little historical lesson, sort of like the old Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. This one deals with a movie. The movie was from 1964, was called Dr. Strangelove. And it was probably one of my favorite movies because that was sort of a thing to kind of help push me along to join the United States Air Force. Well, anyway, back in 1964, Peter Sellers was selected to play in the movie Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying About the Bomb, or The War and Love the Bomb. Remember the movie? And but in that movie, aside from the fact he was cast in the parts that you saw, the President, Dr. Strangelove, and the other characters, he was also cast as Major T.J. King Kong. Now you're going to say, what? Peter Sellers was Major Kong? The 52 driver? Yeah. Trouble was, Peter Sellers couldn't get down a Texas accent. And Stanley Kubrick, the guy who was doing the movie, directing it, he said, okay, I'll get me somebody else to play the B-52 driver. Contacted John Wayne. John Wayne went, nah, I ain't doing that. So then he contacted Dan Blocker. Dan Blocker was, remember Hoss from the Bonanza, the TV series Bonanza? Dan Blocker says, no, that thing's way too political. I ain't getting into that. Everything's political. I mean, politics, actors didn't want to get involved with. So Kubrick had seen Slim Pickens in a movie called One-Eyed Jacks that happened in 1961. So he contacted him. He said, hey, I got a part for you. Would you like to play this part in this movie? So he sent him the script. Now, what Kubrick didn't tell Slim Pickens was this was a dark black comedy. He thought it was a serious, big-time serious war movie. You know, atomic war movie. And the problem was they were filming in England. And in order to go to England, you got to get a passport. Well, it took about a month for Slim Pickens, because that ain't his real name, to get a passport, to get over to England. And when he was over there, this is a good story. James Earl Jones, who everybody knows who he is, like the voice of Darth Vader. James Earl Jones, off when they were not filming, off the set, if you will, sitting around, he thought that Slim Pickens was staying in character as his style. He thought the guy's in character. He won't leave his character, that country bumpkin kind of style. Until somebody told James Earl Jones, no, that's the way he is. That's the way he talks. That's not exactly how he is. He ain't playing. He ain't acting. That's Slim Pickens. Now, you're going to say, well, how did he get that name? Well, a gentleman by the name of Lewis Lindley Jr. said that back in the day, and I think this was a long time ago, Slim Pickens went to a rodeo, and he said to the rodeo manager, the guy who was booking all the acts, like, the roping and all the other stuff, he said, mister, I want to sign up for the calf roping. My pa says I ain't allowed to do it, so I got to get me a different name. Okay? What he said to the guy who was doing the booking. He said, son, I don't care, but it's going to be Slim Pickens out there today for you to get into anything. And the kid says, you know what? I'm going to use that name. Sign me up under Slim Pickens. So the gentleman did. I changed it instead of Pickins. It went to Pickens. Kid entered the rodeo and won $400. And that's how he got started. He was T.J. Kong. Now, you wonder who's T.J. Kong? Well, Kubrick modeled him after a guy named Tex Johnson. Now, Tex Johnson was a chief test pilot for Bell Aircraft and Boeing back in the 40s and the 1950s. And when he flew, this is true because I know this, when he flew, he would show up rather than in a flight suit. He'd be wearing cowboy boots and a Stetson. And And he was, by the way, he was the first guy to ever fly the B-52 when it was originally created. Was Tex Johnson, Alex Johnson. Well, the reason I know all of this was because when Boeing came out with in 1955, they came out with the Dash 80. It was a prototype for the Boeing 707. I know this story because I'm an old 707 pilot. When he came out there, they said, Tex, we need you to fly over Lake Washington because they were having the big regatta going on. There's the jet ski regatta. It's the 1955 Gold Cup hydroplane racing. It was at Lake Washington. A lot of people there, powerful people there. So they said, Tex, we need you to take this prototype 707 and fly it over the lake. Over the lake. Tex said, okay. Jumped in the plane, fired it up, took off, went over the lake, and folks, did a double barrel roll. I mean, a double barrel roll. With a Boeing 707, the president of Boeing, a guy named Bill Allen at the time, thought the plane was going to crash. And it had lost control, and it was going to destroy everything. You know, all the plan for this new plane. Well, Tex Johnson flew it back to the airport, landed, and walked off the plane. Says, okay, did it work? They were stunned, but you know what? The industry, the nation, fell in love with the Boeing 707. And that was the big first airliner, and ultimately became the KC-135 that I'm proud to say that I flew for a number of years. Now, I flew the old A model, not the new ones with the fancy motors on them. I flew the old steam engine version. But now you know the story. Slim Pickens, Tex Johnson, and Dr. Strangelove, and the start of the 707. A little something you probably didn't know, but now you know. And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. See ya. Well, that does it for today's edition of the Pat White Show. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to follow us on social media for the latest Pat White Show, for all the news and updates. And stay tuned for brand new episodes of the Pat White Show coming real soon. Like what you're hearing? Make sure you don't miss an episode by following the Pat White Show on Spotify. Just search for the Pat White Show, hit follow, and get ready for insightful conversations delivered straight to your Spotify feed. If you enjoy watching podcasts as much as listening to them, good news! The Pat White Show is also on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel now for visual content, behind-the-scenes footage, and full podcast experience. Find us on YouTube at the Pat White Show channel.
Happy